Manav, if you can read that one line now. Manav, read that one line of fire now.
या कुन्देन्दु तुषार हार धवला या शुभ्र वस्त्रामृता या वीणावरदण्ड मण्डितकरा या श्वेत पद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युत शङ्कर प्रभृतिभिः देवैः सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती।
सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःख भाग्य भवेत्. Meaning, I've written it in English, that may all be happy, may all be free from illness, may all see what is good and auspicious, may no one be sad or distressed, may there be eternal peace. I bring to you
Manav, if you can just read my intro while this is. Manav, unmute yourself, please.
Sorry, ma'am. We welcome you to the International Lecture Series by Professor Dr. Anupama Rajesh, ma'am, the head of Internationalization Cell and professor here at Amity University.
Manav, can you, Karen, can you hear what he's saying? Okay, right. Carry on, Manav, please.
Ma'am. On the topic of the Ascetic King, leadership from an East perspective. A little something about the speaker. Professor Dr. Anupama Rajesh, ma'am, the professor at Amity Business School, Amity University, India. Her qualifications include a PhD in the area of technology and education, MPhil in IT, MPhil in management, an MED and MSc in IT, a PGDCA, a PGBA. She's also trained for case studying at INSEAD Paris. She has a teaching experience of more than 20 years, including international assignments, which include teaching in Singapore and London, and training of Italian and French delegates and students. She has written more than 90 research papers and case studies for prestigious international journals, and over 9 books and 7 book chapters to her credit. She is a reviewer of the renowned Sage and Emerald Journal. She has research interests of business, intelligence, education technology, marketing analysis, to name a few. While her teaching interests are business intelligence, e-commerce, IT-enabled processes, and so on. She is an avid trainer and has trained Union Bank of India, NHPC, IFS, Tata Motors, Bhutan Power Company, employees as well as the Commonwealth Game volunteers and Army personals. She is a master trainer for Microsoft, Infosys partners for business intelligence, and partner for SPM Iraq 7. She has won several awards, such as the ADMA Research Award, and has also been awarded several outstanding paper awards at prestigious conferences and institutes such as the IIM Ahmedabad, and by organizations such as the Emerald International Journal of Emerging Markets. She also has a MOOC to her credit. She is also the project lead for the coveted UK REI and touring scheme for the United Kingdom. She also has 3 patents and 1 copyright to her. And there's something to acquaint you all to the speaker. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I would have stopped you midway, but I thought it would be important to introduce myself to my British friends. And Karen, with your permission, may I start the lecture?
Well, yes, and firstly, thank you both so much for such another amazing introduction. That we're so fortunate to be joining you in this virtual space and to be blessed by these stories of Indian heritage and culture, which I know you're going to tell us so much more about in respect of leadership, which is so valuable for us because within our own studying of leadership, we have the Western perspective. So for us to learn today from your rich Indian heritage perspectives on leadership is of immense value to us. So thank you very much.
All right. So thank you so much for this opportunity. And before I start the lecture, I'm just going to say just a little bit of word of, I don't know if that is called, just like that, is that this is a lot of imagery that I'm going to use in my, lecture, a lot of instances of mythology, etc. Now, they are not religion specific, they are region specific. So I'm going to use a lot of imagery, a lot of examples, but that is more about our Southeast Southeastern region that we are going to talk about. There's going to be a lot of these stories, a lot of these mythologies, some of them history, some of them mythology, but just enjoy it. There's nothing deeper than any, don't take it too much. Just enjoy the whole process of me telling you these nice little stories. You have to just understand that these theories basically have an impact on the thought process because we grow up with these stories. That's the only point I'm trying to make in the lecture. And then I'm going to bring out the points that because of this thought process being impacted so deeply by these stories, the leaders of today behave the way they do. All finding a little bit of a mention to the earlier are older. So if I can just take you back to this particular slide, where I read out a little bit of a Sanskrit shlok. This shlok comes from a shlok meaning a couplet, comes from the Rig Veda, which was written 1500 BC, which means 1500 years before Christ was born. And why it is called the Rig Veda is because it was passed down by generations by word of mouth. So since there was no writing at that point of time, so the guru, which means the teacher, said a lot of verses to their students. The students remembered it and then passed on to the next set of students and so on. So from 1500 BC till today, these kind of shlokas or verses have been transferred down the ages. Now, why I use this particular verse is if you look at it, it says, may all be happy, may all be free from illness, may all see what is good and auspicious, may no one be sad or distressed, may there be eternal peace. So 1500 years before Christ, somebody said, let everybody be healthy. In this coronavirus time, in our developed and rich worlds, we forget that large person sitting somewhere in South Africa or somewhere really, really remote. And if that person has that coronavirus or any kind of illness, that illness comes back to us in the developed rich world. So when we said global village, 1500 years ago, somebody said, let everybody be happy. There cannot be happiness till everybody is going to be happy. And for example, something as pertinent maybe as this, what you see today, that Ukraine or Russia somewhere are fighting, and it has impacted the gas prices, the petrol prices, the share prices. So whatever happens across the world has an impact on us. And that is why the cornerstone of this whole the lecture that I will say that let everybody be happy. It's all about being one and not having different paths. So we thought of happiness for everybody then. Now I take you to this next slide of mine. And I want you to look at this. And the first word that I'm going to talk about is the word Sanatan. Now, Sanatan means which has no beginning or no end. So, the Indian culture looks at an eternity. It's like as if I was a part of a big flow. Now, if there is this huge river maybe flowing, and if I am a small particle in that river, then there is complete continuity. So we say there is no beginning or no end to our culture. We are Sanatan culture. That means and that is another very important part, is that since I'm a part of this flow, which is just starting from somewhere, we don't know where it has started from and we don't know where it will end. There is no question of an ego, because I am that minuscule part of that big flow of culture which is happening. So Sanatan word is very, very important for us Indians. And then the word dharma. Now, some people confuse that when I'm saying dharma, I mean religion. At no point of time, the word dharma means religion. Directly translated, it means duty. And that is the next big word that I come to. Everything in Indian culture is about the word duty. Why am I saying so? Is because I take you to the next slide. Just give me a second. 1 second. Right. Now, there is, I'll just give you a small example of the word duty. The human lifetime of 100 years is kind of divided into 25 compartments, 25-year compartments. So 25 years, till 25 years, you're supposed to study. And then from 25 to 50, you're supposed to kind of have marry, have children, educate them, whatever. At around 50, you're supposed to start detaching from your family, because only on the condition that you have finished your duty of giving birth to children, educating them, and what is called the Pani Grahan Sanskar, which means that your children should be married. Of course, it doesn't apply in today's age, but should be married by say, the age of 50. And then you start detaching yourself from the whole thing. But Indian culture, Indian tradition says that when you detach doesn't mean you sit in the Himalayas with some ash on your body and say, okay, now I don't know, I don't have responsibility, nothing. No. Even the Lord Shiva, who actually sits in the Himalayas and wears ash, has a family, looks after his family, does his duty of looking after the world. So two words that are cornerstones of Indian culture and Indian traditions. The word duty. There is no way that anybody, even a small tree, has a duty of giving shades to people who sit there. So number one, the duty, and number two, detachment. Let me spend just a couple of minutes on, on the word detachment. Since I come back to that earlier word, since nothing has a beginning, nor anything has an end, which means that you and me also do not have a beginning or end. It is told to us in various texts that we are all parts of the big whole of, a big whole called God. And we are all parts of the God. So when the Indians do namaste, it means that my part of the God is saluting your part of the God. So when all of us are parts of gods, and even if we die, we just go back to the God. So really there is no beginning, no end, no death. It's just a continuity. I was part of God. I came here, did my duty, went back to God. So there's no need to get upset about dying. There's no attachment, because ultimately I'm going to go back to that whole. So this whole thing about detachment, about not having too much of attachment on material things, not stressing too much about death, about births, is probably one of the biggest cornerstones of Indian traditions, that really everything is yours and frankly nothing is yours. So that way you then want to rise up from all sorrows, all death, all worries that actually plague the modern India, modern world today. I give you a little bit of an example. Look at the lotus flower. It is in in a pond really, and lots of dirt and muck may be there, but it stays there without dirtying itself. So that maybe is the best example to take and to understand what I mean when I say detachment. So you stay in this world, you do your duty of flowering, of giving birth to children, of getting them married, settling them, but at the same time you do not get so attached that you worry too much, or you start becoming hyper possessive and things like that. So detachment, that's the next important word to remember. Now, I'll give you a couple of stories about all this detachment and duty and all that, and then I'll take you to modern day leaders, and then I will connect how all this thought process impacts their thinking. Look at this word. This is the word is ascetic king. So ascetic means a sage, somebody who's detached, somebody who's given up the world. Yet I use the word king. So a king is always seen as somebody with lots of crown, lots of money, so you remain a king, but you remain ascetic in your mind, because you have to remember that nothing is yours really. Now, people who are Indians would know the story of Lord Rama. He was the king of, he's our prime god, and he was the king of Ayodhya. And then because of a promise that his father had given to his mother, he was exiled for 14 years. Now, when he was exiled and he was sent to the forest, his father was very unhappy and he said, I can't let you go, you're the king, etc. Then Lord Rama said something which is very important. He said, I'm not the ruler of just this fantastic city with lots of riches and lots of thrones and lots. I'm also ruler of, if you look at my word, the formless. I'm ruler of the trees, I'm ruler of the rivers, I'm ruler of the people who live in the forest, I'm even ruler of the demons who lived in the forest. Giving you that very important lesson that a king or anybody, a leader, does not give up on anybody. So leader does not belong to that very plush office and that plush chair. That leader is also the leader of the person who's working in that office, of the most marginalized person in that office, of somebody who may not be seen so much, even the cleaner in that office. That leader has a duty, remember the word duty, even to the most marginalized, to the most weak, and even those people who do not contribute to your success. So you're leader of the demons also. You have to convince them to fall in your line. So just anybody, when I bring up this, does that impact the PowerPoint, or are you okay? Now I take you to the Ram army. A little story. Lord Rama lives in a so just share it once more, just one second. Lives in the forest, and once he's living in the forest, somebody kidnaps his wife. I won't go into the bigger story, I'll make my point. And the wife is kidnapped by a demon called Ravan. And he has to go to Sri Lanka, of present day Sri Lanka, to get his wife back. Now, I want to show you this next slide. He goes with an army to Sri Lanka to get his wife. And this is a little bit of a video of the army that he took. So there were lots of these monkeys. Look at this, there's a tortoise, there's an eagle. Of course, these stones, there's an elephant there. Of course, there are lots of these monkeys. Look at, there was this little animal there. There's a horse, there's a tortoise, there are these birds, and so on. So you'll see lots of these, all kind of varied animals that were, so there are even these fishes, if you look at those fishes. And that's how the a bridge was made between modern day India to modern day Sri Lanka, and then he went to Sri Lanka to get his wife back. Now, one would, anybody who doesn't know the Indian stories will say, what kind of an army was this? There are monkeys and tortoises and fish. Who does that? I mean, for an army, you need armor, you need archers, you need people who can fight. But please understand, these are imageries. They were not meant to be actually, they're not the truth. They're not history. They are mythology, which means that imagery was used. So when they said monkeys and tortoises and fish, what they meant was that they had a team of different natures. So maybe there was a monkey, which probably they meant somebody who was fast, who was nimble, and so on. There was a tortoise, maybe somebody who's slow, who doesn't work so fast. Maybe there were the fishes, there were elephants, So basically what it meant that when Ram took his army, there was a lot of inclusivity. Nobody was discriminated against. So if there was a monkey, there was also an elephant, there was also a horse, there was also a fish, and there was also all kinds of. So this is where there's a lesson of inclusivity inbuilt into your culture. And I take you to another few lessons of inclusivity. In our culture, you will come to these two another very important stories. You will come to the story of Shikhandi, who was actually, in our story, it says half man, half woman. If you think about it in modern day, he actually was a transgender. And he won the battle, a very important battle in Mahabharata, another of our cultural stories. Which means they said, and he was then given a lot of accolade because he won a very big war. Which means there was the respect for transgender was inbuilt into your culture. Look at the right side figure. That's one of our most important gods, the Sham or the Krishna, and he's black. He was black, and in fact, his mother would call him, out of sheer love, would call him Shyam, which means the night, late evening, basically. So basically, he was black. So when they say Black Lives Matter, for us, black is God. So nobody, if somebody has to tease somebody about color, will say, you are like Shyam or Lord Krishna. So actually, you can never really insult anybody who's black, because blackness is inbuilt into our culture of worship. Now, let me take you to another story. Women empowerment. When they say that women should be given the front line, and more so in our Indian culture, because a lot of discrimination has happened over the centuries with women, we worship women. These are our gods. So on the left side, you see a god of learning. On the center, you see god of riches and goddess actually. And on the extreme left, you see the Lourdes Kali, which is somebody who fights war. So they tell you that either even the learning is a female, the riches is a female, and the strength, Lourdes Kali, is also a female. Now, I know, like all societies, we have our own set of problems, but at least imageries that were used, the stories that were used, they were supposed to have an impact such that you worship them, either in form of learning or in form of riches or as form of Lourdes Kali, which again is black in color. So again, you are not going to call anybody black because Lourdes Kali itself is black. Another very interesting story about inclusivity. Lord Rama, when he was going for his war to Sri Lanka, suddenly somebody noticed that a small squirrel was picking up, a little bit of water, taking it from the ocean and putting it on the side. And all these animals, such as the elephant, such as the monkey, they all started laughing at the squirrel. What are you doing? So the squirrel said, well, I also want to help Lord Rama get his wife back. So I'm just doing my bit by trying to get those drops of water out of the ocean so that he can build his build his bridge across Sri Lanka. Now, please understand, this is again very powerful imagery where a squirrel is contributing. So if I can just take you back to that ocean, so a squirrel is also contributing to Lord Rama's army, and how the squirrel is also doing its part. See, even the fishes are contributing. So that bridge gets made from India to Sri Lanka so that army can go to Sri Lanka to get the wife back. Very powerful. Another very interesting story. Lord Krishna is considered very, very beautiful. And remember, he's black. Then he wears a peacock on his crown. So the peacock, of course, if you can look at, maybe this is a better picture to have. So he has a peacock feather, if you see on the right side, extreme right, on his crown. So the peacock got very, very vain and very, very proud of himself. And he said, wow, I'm on the god's head. I must be so beautiful and so fantastic. And then Lord Krishna, almost cursed, if that is the word to use, the peacock to have ugly, really ugly feet. And so if you ever look at the peacock, the one with the beautiful plume, you will find that he has really, really ugly feet. Now again, an imagery to teach you humility, that no matter how beautiful, how powerful you are, you still, because you'll remember the peacock's curse, that even if you are most powerful, even if you're most beautiful, you will end up having ugly feet if you are vain and proud. So again, a very powerful imagery to keep you humble, because remember, detachment, duty, humility are the cornerstones of the Indian culture. Again, a powerful imagery with a powerful meaning. Harishchandra, another. So all the Indians here, they would know that, if somebody has to say they'll say, hello? Okay, so I'll just mute all the attendees. So, okay. So, if somebody speaks the truth, he say, you're like a Harishchandra. Now, what is this Harishchandra story? He was a king, and because he had promised somebody that I'll give you whatever you ask for, he ended up, selling his own self to keep that promise. So he's considered, because he had promised, the justice says that if you promise, you have to deliver. Because of his truth and justice, he gave up his entire kingdom, came and even became a slave to keep that promise. Again, a very powerful story of how the truth and duty and justice takes the most important cornerstone in our Indian imagery. One more, Kern. His imagery is that of giving. So again, you have to remember that all the people that I'm talking of, they are very powerful figures in Indian culture and in history and mythology, and they're all associated with giving, with humility, of duty, etc. So Kern had this golden armor, which was a part of his body. So he wouldn't wear it. It was part of his body. And somebody came and said, I want you to give me this, at 1 hour in the morning every day, he would donate. So he's called the great giver. And when one of the lords came to test him. So they came at the end when he had run out of his gold, which he was donating. And they said, okay, if you've run out of the gold, you give me this golden armor, which is part of your body. And because he had promised, if you see on the right, he actually tore open his body and gave that golden armor to, and he knew that if he do that, he's going to die. But because there was a promise, because it was about donation, so these are images, these are stories which tell you that no matter how hard the cost, giving is bigger than taking, or, giving is the biggest, and giving is where everything, your glory is, your greatness is. So basically, these are the imageries that Indian or Eastern, these Southeastern Asian people grow up with. Again, one more. So I'm just not talking about kings and kingdom. Again, remember I said king is not just one who sits on the throne. You're also, the king is also somebody who's about ruler of the mind. So you know of the Lord Buddha. He was a king, he left everything, went into forest and became a very big influence and a very big person who's, we had Lord Buddha is considered a very big religious leader. Buddhism is a very a religion followed by so many people, and the entire Buddhism is about equanimity, that you do not get too much, you neither get too upset with happiness, neither you get too upset about sadness, or too much happy about
वापस आओगे ना
and this is how you are going to be the ruler of the mind. So not the ruler of the land, not the ruler of anything material, but the ruler of the mind. Next slide I'll take. So I've just missed out one slide. I'll just roll it back to see if I've got my Gita. I've missed it out somewhere, because that's a very, very important slide to take. Yeah. Now, anybody who knows even Indian culture, even slightly, would know about the Gita. So just a very, very, in about a minute, about 30 seconds, Gita is about the Lord Krishna giving a sermon to his disciple called Arjun about how we should not be attached to many things, because there's a battlefield. So if you see this whole the picture on the top, there's a battle which is going on between two parts of the family, and Arjun says, I'm not going to fight, these are my uncles, these are my people I know, I'm not going to fight with them. And that is when Lord Krishna gives him explains to him about detachment. He says and continuity, what I just said. He said, no, there is no birth and no death. You are part of me, and you will go and be born as a human being and come back and die and then come back and become a part of me. So there is a continuity. Nobody is dying and nobody is being born. It's all a continuity. And then there is no need to be attached to human bodies. Be attached to the souls. So even if a body dies, that person itself per se doesn't die. So in many of the human households, including mine, even if my mother is not there physically, she has died, and there is no human body called my mother, I feel that she's around me, because that's the culture that I have grown up in. Why I want to connect it with leaders of today is because this whole detachment, number one. Number two, this Gita, this war that you see here was not a physical war. Could be, could not be. One can't be sure. This is mythology. But it is a war that goes up in your mind every single day of your life, where you say that, should I do this particular activity or should I not do this particular activity? If I'm a leader, should I go run after money or should I run after position? Should I do justice? Should I follow the truth? Every single day you have a war happening in your mind. And then your conscience, which means the Lord Krishna, tells you the right path. That do not be detached, do not be attached to material things, physical things. Be attached to a higher purpose in life, which I said started in the beginning, happiness for all. Right? Let me come back, and enough of these stories. I'm going to now connect it with modern day leaders. I hope you've enjoyed the stories. And now I bring you to the current leaders. And I start with, without any, any political leanings, with our Prime Minister, Narendra Modi. He's the 14th and the current Prime Minister. He likes to be called himself the Pradhan Sevak, which means, so I'm not, whenever I talk about these things, please do not think it's politically inclined. It's just these facts. You may or may not agree. All right. So he likes to call himself the Pradhan Sevak, which means the prime servant, instead of the, and you'll find one again, a very strange commonalities in all the big leaders that I will take now. They seem to be bachelors. Most about the 5-6 big people that I'll talk about, you will find that 3 of them were bachelors. Somehow, the idea of getting married, having too many riches, is not. So, if you are going to be a leader, if you're going to influence people, somehow a bachelor would remember that ascetic mindset is something which influences. So, this is a strange coincidence. So, Paul likes to be called himself a Pradhan Sevak, meaning the servant, the prime servant. Hardly has any, wealthy, wealth, and I was just looking up his assets, and he seems to have very little money and any kind of. He lives alone in the huge prime minister house. Does not even allow his mother to live with him. Wants to be donates his entire salary. So remember detachment, giving. Maybe it's an image, maybe it's reality, I don't know, but I'm just telling you facts. So likes to donate all his salary for the girl education. Talks a lot about his humble upbringing. So he apparently used to sell tea in when he was a young child in railway stations, which is really somebody who comes from a very humble background. When there are important projects, he doesn't like to be photographed with the project heads. He goes and sits down with the workers, actual workers, people who were working on that. So people who were picking up bricks and mortar and things like cleaners, and likes to sit with them and get himself photographed there. And one of the first images that he took when he became the prime minister, that he took a very big broom and launched the Swachh Bharat mission, which is the Clean India mission. By brooming one of the roads, of course, got himself photographed, and that's a very deciding imagery that is being used. But remember, we are talking about imagery here. So the idea that, okay, if the prime minister can sweep the streets, so I don't want to throw my litter on the streets, is a powerful imagery to have. Next, let me take you to our ex-president of India. Again, Abdul Kalam ji, world-renowned astrophysicist, and again, a bachelor. So again, a very strange coincidence I had. His worldly possession after he passed off was, I looked it up, was one CD player, one veena, which is a musical instrument, one laptop, and that's it. That's all that he had despite being the president of India. He was popularly called the people's president. Opened the president house for public. So you could actually go into the president's house, of course, and look at what it had. In 1998, made a very low cost, he was a world renowned astrophysics, but he spent a very big part of his time trying to develop a low cost coronary stent called the Kalam Raju stent. Started the What Can I Give movement in 2012. So remember, what can I give? Everything is about giving because they come from those imageries of giving is the best. Again, used to have tea with various religious leaders and, alternatively, including Christian priests, etc. He was a Muslim, of course. And he said, let's talk about the unity of minds. So it's a great, parting shot to take, unity of the mind. So let's not talk, because India is a very diverse country with a lot of culture, with a lot of, but let's talk of the unity of the mind. Great, takeaway from his. So love for children, people's president, etc. Narayan Murthy. He is called the father of the IT sector. So you'll understand that because India is considered a very big IT workforce across the world, and he's called the father figure of the IT sector. Of course, he's also the father-in-law of Rishi Sunak. So you would know Rishi Sunak. He's he's a number 2 man in your United Kingdom cabinet, and his CSR. So he likes to call. He's still alive. So if you see, he likes to call himself the compassionate capitalist. So you see, nothing wrong in your money, but there has to be a compassion with it. His wife, Sudha Murthy, runs the Infosys Foundation, builds houses, toilets, and I like to quote him. Very interesting quote. Again, link it to all the imagery that I have taken. No one is the owner of money. You are only the trustee of money, and it always changes hands. When you are successful, give it back to society that gave you so much goodwill. Again, remember giving. So most of these Indian capitalists will not flaunt their yachts and airplanes. They will talk of giving, because giving has always been something which has been shown in great light and has been always been said that is the biggest dharma or biggest duty. So if you look at this, rank second business world list of most respected companies. Next one, our favorite, Indian favorite, Ratan Tata. Again, bachelor. He's got, if you look at it, first position. He worked as a blue collar employee in his own company and always sits next to his driver. You know, he has given the largest grant to CMU for work on Alzheimer's, etc. If you remember, there was an attack in the Taj Hotel in Bombay, and Taj Hotel was the center of that terrorist attack. And every single person, and including somebody I knew, has been so well cared for. A very, very, very humble man. And just to make that point, I'm going to show you a very interesting video, and I'll just switch on my sound so that video plays. Yeah. So just see.
Last year on February
Can you hear
6,
that?
2018, Prince Charles wanted to give Ratan Tata the Lifetime Achievement Award for Philanthropy at Buckingham Palace.
Yes.
Everything was set. It was under the auspices of the British Asian Trust. I reached London on the 2nd or the 3rd of February, and there were 11 missed calls from Mr. Tata.
Yeah.
So I said, God, what's happened? So I'm picking up my bags at Heathrow from the conveyor belt, and I called Mr. Tata. I said, what's happened? He says Tango and Tito, his dogs.
Yes.
One of them had fallen terribly ill.
Yes.
He's saying, I can't leave him and come.
So sensitive.
I said, Mr. Tata, Prince Charles has organized this Lifetime Achievement Award.
Yes.
He didn't come.
He did come.
And you know what Prince Charles said?
Yes.
He says, that's a man. You know, Shakespeare ends Julius Caesar in a very fine way. He says the elements were so mixed in him of Brutus that nature might stand up and say to all the world, this was a man. That's the man that Ratan is. That's why the house is what it is. That's why the house of Tata is what it is. That's why it is on stable course. Leadership is not about what you do. Leadership is also about what you believe in.
So just look at that. A Lifetime Achievement Award from a monarch of United Kingdom. And he says, sorry, boss, my dog is not well, and I'm not, and they are parts of my family, and I'm sorry, I can't leave them. What a humane. I mean, somebody would say it was a snub, but if you see, Prince Charles also understood where the human feeling was coming from. Again, one more, I'm just going to just read this. Okay, so next leader, Azim Premji. Chairman of IPRO. Look at the worth. And he's called the Tsar of IT. So that one was the father of IT. He's called the Tsar of IT. He's one of the top global leaders of IT, 100 most influential people by time, 500 most influential Muslim in the world. But he took the giving pledge. Again, remember, giving. He donated half his wealth. So that much, if you can look at it, that many billion, half his wealth. And took the giving pledge. And from the second richest man in the world, he fell down to 17th because he donated his wealth. And this is what I have this very interesting quote from Azim Premji. He says, being rich doesn't thrill me. He was the first Indian to take that pledge, and he tops a list of being most generous. And Again, I quote Azim Premji. He says, I strongly believe that those of us who are privileged to have wealth should contribute significantly to try and create a better world for millions who are less privileged. Now, this very quote, let me see, it brings out the word duty because you're supposed to take care of the less privileged, brings out the word giving, which then brings out the word detachment. Don't get unnecessarily attached to things which are material. Money comes and money grows. So these are the most important takeaways from this lecture which I have taken. That all, and I've taken the a sample size of all the big leaders, from a prime minister to a president to business leaders to a religious leader. All of them come with duty, with detachment, with not being unnecessarily attached to material wealth, of being being stable in their minds and being leader of all. Not just a leader will not sit on a throne and just be a king, would also reach out to the less privileged and be a leader of everybody and leader. And so the whole idea is not to be of leader of human beings. The idea is to be leader of the mind, of the heart, because we believe in continuity, in Sanatan, that doesn't begin, doesn't end. Don't get too fixated in what's happening now. Just do your duty and do your best. So if I can just show you a few research papers which I have seen, apart from my own understandings of because I do a lot of research on how culture and Indian traditions impact us. And so I'll share these links. I'll also share the presentation in a PDF format. And if you look at it, there's a background of all kinds of leaders at the back. And if you see most of the leaders, you'll see. So there's even a Gandhi ji there who just would wear one piece of cloth, and he's supposed to be the father of Indian independence. So if all these people come with one commonality of giving, of duty, etc. I hope you've enjoyed this lecture as I have enjoyed putting it all together, and I'm open to any kind of questions that may come.
Whilst we wait for questions from the floor, I'll come in if I may. Thank you so much. There was so much to take from the rich imagery, so many stories, and bringing that through to modern day leadership. So thank you. In terms of those key takeaways around duty, trust, justice, inclusivity, it's everything that we are embedding into our teaching of Western leadership. And I think the labels that we give to it in the West are around servant leadership, transformational leadership, and indeed direct labels, inclusive leadership. And I wonder, despite these commonalities in the principles by which we should live and ideally live, there are still many business scandals, of course, where power and ego take over people. And so I really liked the point that you made around being ruler of the mind rather than ruler of the land, talking about the ascetic king. And that made me think about the fact that so often it's the senior people in leadership who quite often are those who are least in control of their minds and least have a stable mind, as you referred to. So I wonder what your key advice would be to all the future business leaders that we have in the room today about how they can practice and train their minds in order to be the best possible future leaders for all.
You know, Karen, that is why, when I was talking about, when I was making this lecture, I brought out the most important bits that one has to remember. So for example, when even if we are small leaders in our own, we are a leader of our own class as a teacher. Now, what is my duty? First thing, so if I'm doing my duty as a teacher, is that being done? Then inclusivity. These days, now I think when coronavirus was spreading, I think one of the biggest lessons it has told me that I cannot leave anybody out. So if I'm vaccinating, if I leave out a poor nation, that poor nation is going to come back with a bigger form of a disease. I think it is a God symbol to teach everybody inclusivity. When you think of yourself, don't think of yourself. Think of everybody around you. That is very, I wanted to begin the lecture and somehow I forgot. I got so lost in that lecture. So I'm wearing this shawl on purpose. It is called a Jamdari shawl. And if you look at this shawl, there are so many hundreds of colors and threads in it of different colors, but none of them has their own identity. If one thread says to you that I'm the most important, then the beauty of this shawl, if I can show it to you on the camera, will go away. The shawl will be beautiful only when every single thread says that I'm going to lose myself and become part of the bigger pattern that the shawl is. The minute I think of myself, that is why Lord Krishna says that you are nothing, you're just part of me. And that also teaches, you do not have any existence. You are part of me as a God. You'll do your duty as a person and come back to me again and become part of me. So when everybody's a part of a bigger whole, which may be any religion really, then what is there to get egoistical and possessive about? Ultimately, I'm going to leave everything here and go away and become part of that bigger whole. It may be a Christian whole, it may be a Hindu whole, or it may be a Muslim whole. But ultimately, I'm going to leave this body which I have, and I'm going to go and become something else. So this detachment word is also very important. And that word that I use, that is why I brought Buddha out. The stability of mind is very important. So neither do you get very upset, nor you get very happy, nor you get attached to a chair, nor do you get attached. So these, I think, are the biggest things that you have to bring. So remember your duty. Remember not to be too attached to think. Don't let your ego come in, because remember, you're nothing. You're just part of a whole, a very, very minuscule. So imagine a big flowing river and you being a particle there. So really, is how much is there to have an ego about? And remember inclusivity, because if you leave out somebody, then that unhappiness that you create in the organization, that organization can never. So all these leaders that I talked about, from a Ratan Tata to a, so there are lots of these stories. I could have gone off for hours where they've sat with cleaners. That is why I gave you that example, or workers, and they have said, or an HCL says employee first, forget the customer, my employee is first. So these kind of, then these organizations become big in every sense of the word. When they know that somebody cares about me, just being a lot of money, a lot of prestige is frankly of no use, if you ask me.
Wonderful. It's the basic principles of humanity.
Yes.
Going into leadership with nothing actually particularly complicated. It's just respect for one another. So we have got a final minute. I would send out a request for anybody to take the most of this opportunity to ask Dr. Anupama a question or an observation.
So surely.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you so much. I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about, I completely agree with you about giving being so important, but about how important it is also to think about self-care so that you can keep giving, because I find that a really difficult balance. I'm very good at putting myself last, and I just was really interested to hear about what you thought on that.
A very interesting question. So if I may give you the flip side of what I've been saying, when I am part of a bigger whole, and in my case, I'm part of that God, then I have to take very good care of myself. And because I'm going to ultimately become part of the God, so I can't abuse myself because I have a duty towards that God to keep myself intact in every which way. Also, in our culture, so for example, fasting. Fasting is very important in our culture. There are very strict guidelines that you will not fast if you are ill, if you're unhealthy, if you are pregnant, if you have children. So at self-care is very, very important. Remember, yoga, meditation is a very, very big part of our Indian culture, because I would have talked on for hours, so I left that bit out. But for example, I also spend about 10-15 minutes of hardcore meditation, because whenever I'm stressed, and everybody has stress, why should, that whole idea, this whole thing comes because your Western doctors or any kind of heart doctors are saying controlled breathing. Now this controlled breathing is a pranayam that is inbuilt into yoga, and you're supposed to do at least 1 hour of yoga every day. So that's your prayer really. So it's inbuilt into prayer. So at no point of time, because you have to remember you are a part of the God and you have to go back to the God. So you have to take very good care of yourself. You can't take care of anybody unless you take care of good yourself. So self-worth, self-love is the first way. It's actually God's love, because remember you're part of the God. So it's very important to take good care of yourself. And once you are healthy enough, so you see, the kings gave once they were kings. We did not have somebody who, you gave only when you were capable of giving. I wish I could give you a immediate example where you could give only when you're capable of giving. So not at no point do you if you are unhappy, you're going to have a cascading effect of unhappiness across everybody. So that's very clear in our culture, that first take good care of yourself, do your yoga, do your meditation, get your mind balanced. Remember detachment, keep your mind balanced, only then go out and do your duty. Does that answer your question?
It does. It answers it beautifully, actually. Thank you so much. It's really funny that I do intermittent fasting really for the health benefits, but I've never really thought about it from a kind of spiritual perspective or practice. So yeah, there's lots of things to think about. Thank you.
So fasting is also discipline. Also is really about keeping a control over, so you don't get attached to too much of food. But fasting is completely prohibited if you're a pregnant person, if you're ill, if you're lactating, it's completely forbidden. Do not harm yourself. You have to, your body is considered a temple, because remember that soul that I have inside me, which is giving me breath, is part of the God. So my body is my temple. So I have to take very good care. So cleanliness and exercise, yoga is considered inbuilt parts of the culture. That is like doing my prayer. So, so it's understood. It's a given that I have to take care of myself.
There's been a big focus in the West, especially since COVID-19, in terms of wellness and self-care in organisational life, with motivational speakers and perhaps even a yoga class for some organisations. Is there some aspect within typical Indian organisations that embed this notion of self-care for employees?
Absolutely. We have yoga instructors right there in our office, because the minute after I normally do my meditation about 15 minutes before my work day ends, and the entire stress of the day kind of flows out. And then when I go home, because remember, I have to also do my duty as a mother, as a wife. So I leave my duty as a professional, and then I go home and do my duty as a mother and a wife, because that's equally important, because that's equal part of the duty that I have to do.
Any other questions from the floor? I see one of my students on the screen that I might just put on the spot. And Sukhvant, are you there?
Hi, professors. Yeah, I am here.
Dr. Anupama, that was really so wonderful. I'm so happy. I was attending, every minute of it, and it's really very interesting. I couldn't help stop, complimenting.
Dr. Karen, that's my HOD of HR and OB. Somebody you would like to know, because she's a very powerful figure in the field of HR and OB. So maybe
I was really amazed the way Dr. Anupama has, in a very small, within 15 minutes, she has recapitulated and taken us back in our history, in our tradition, and then linking it with the modern, I would say, leaders. Wonderful, very interesting. All my students are attending it,
Thank
so
you
I
so
was
much.
thinking what a huge, they were around 178 around when they were joining. I think some of them may have some network issue, but everybody was joining, and very nice, wonderful session.
Dr. Karen, we just said that even there are 2 students, I'm okay with it. But Dr. Jaya and has now the entire HR, and I hope I'm in front of these HR grades to dare to talk about.
No, such a wonderful, interesting session. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Wonderful.
yeah, thank you. Karen, you was talking about. I think there was some student who wanted to talk.
Hello, Dr.
Hi.
Anupama.
Hi,
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I just
My
wanted to
pleasure.
ask.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask how important is to have a cutoff from the society, like you told, that to be a good leader.
No,
How important is it?
No, not at all cut off from the society. So the first time when I said that is why I have called my lecture Ascetic King. So and I said at no point are you supposed to leave your your duty and go away and become an ascetic somewhere. You have to do your duty. You have to be very much part of society. That is why I gave you those compartments. 25 years you study. From 25 to 50, you are marrying, you are raising children, you are educating them, you're doing your duty. So Dr. Karen, we have something called the Pani Grahan Sanskar, which means the marriage. So your duty to your children does not finish till the time you have done Pani Grahan Sanskar of your children, which means till the time your children are married, you cannot give up. That is, your duty is not over till the time they are married. So no point of time, even a Krishna says that you are not to leave any of your duties and go away. I think even in a Muslims world, they cannot go for Hajj till the time, they have finished off their duties. They're not allowed to. So when we say ascetic, we mean only in the mind that I'm going to do my duty. I'm going to wear this precious stone. But I'm not going to be so attached to it that day and night I'm thinking about it. So I'm going to do my duty, yet remain like that lotus flower, remain in the society, yet away from intense attachment. So you're going to be attached. Obviously, you're going to be attached to your parents, to your children, but not to the extent where it takes away, it completely controls your mind. That is the danger. That is the line that you have to maintain. And that is why I brought Buddha in. Balance is the key. Equanimity is the key. So I don't get hyper excited about happiness. I do not get hyper excited about unhappiness. I maintain a golden middle, as it is called. So I'm going to be attached. I'm going to be detached. I'm going to be ascetic. But at the same time, I'm going to do my duty. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Just as we perhaps begin to close and not to miss the opportunity, I notice also Sophia, you're here in the room now. Sophia is one of our students from Nigeria, and we've had some brilliant discussions in the class with our Indian students, UK students, and some students from Nigeria with some really different perspectives around duty. And when you mentioned, for example, the duty towards children once they're married, that the parent can begin to step back, and different national perspectives on this. So Sophia, if you're there, would you like to ask a question or make an observation?
Thank you, Dr. Karen. I just want to say that it's quite an interesting view. I didn't have this idea of what Indian type of leadership is and how it's embedded in their beliefs and how they behave. It's really an interesting view, and of course, it's quite different from where I come from. But I definitely learned something. Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
And so, what would be your perspectives on the great female leaders of India?
So Karen, we were one of the few. So when you had your Margaret Thatcher, we had Indira Gandhi as our prime minister. So women leaders have always, I mean, because remember, I take you to that imagery where I showed you those three gods, where one was a goddess of learning, one was goddess of wealth, and the another goddess of power. Of course, I'm not. Of course, like all societies in the world, we have a lot of discrimination. We have a lot of problems. All those things are there, but you have to start from somewhere. And there is, we are told that all the important things are women, which means your. So if you hurt women or if you do not discriminate women, then actually you're discriminating against gods. I'm just going to make one small point. Sometimes, specifically talking about Hinduism, a lot of people laugh that, okay, they have got these, or everything is a god, a tree is a god, a rat is a god, an elephant is a god. But what is this? What is this nonsense? Why do they have so many gods? Actually, Dr. Karen, this is again imagery. So when you are so much into sustainability. So when I say that this is a tree, which is actually my forefather, and I tie a thread around it, actually I cannot cut it then. It's an inbuilt sustainability. If I say this is a lion and this is the associated with my goddess, then I don't murder it, and hence I save a species. When something as as insignificant as a snake or a rat or a fish, I find all of them associated with gods or all kinds of plants. So a tulsi plant, the basil that you talk about, all these plants have now been scientifically proven to be extremely useful to society. So actually, we are teaching you sustainability. We are saying, please do not harm animals, do not harm trees, because remember, the leader is not only the leader of the human being, the leader is also the leader of the river, of the mountain, of the animal, of every single. So I showed you that imagery where there was a tortoise, a fish, every single. You are not only leader of the material, you're also leader of the formless. So basically, if you look at it, this is sustainability. All these are imageries. You understand that if I say to you that, okay, from tomorrow onwards, you're going to do 1 hour of exercise every day. Your 2 days you will do exercise, third day you're just going to sick of it. But if I tell you that yoga is your prayer, or a namaz is a complicated way of doing exercise, and you have to exercise 5 times a day, because it is a prayer, you end up. So yoga, because it is associated with God, most of the Indians will do it some form of the other. So basically all these are imageries to improve the quality of living, and not only your living, quality of trees, quality of animals, quality of every single thing. So we do not want to, because the river is also a goddess, we cannot pollute it. Because the air is also a goddess, we don't want to pollute it. Because the fire is also a goddess, we want to be careful with it. It is said that if you do a little bit of a prayer of the flame, you must send it back home, because remember, a flame can also set fire to your house. So everything is about imagery and a larger message that it is giving to you, not really immediately translated or immediately understood, not the literal meanings, the imagery behind it and the concept behind it. There's a larger understanding of those things.
I think the imagery does give it extra power. For myself, the video that you played of the ram army to illustrate teamwork and the role of every animal, every creature, every organism, and recognizing the divine within every person. And that also reflects the longer term view as well, of looking after our planet and our future generations. So thank you.
I just wanted to bring that out, that all these, why would one has fables? Like you have fables in the Western culture. We have these stories which teach you something good. Now it's all on you if you want to really take it or not take it. But the idea is to instill those values. So before I hurt an animal, I immediately see some kind of dog in it, some kind of God in it. So, for example, the first bread that is made in Indian household is fed to the cow. The last one is fed to the dog. Now, actually, I'm feeding animals. Don't think of it as religion. Think of sustainability. Think of a dog or a cat or any of these animals requiring, some kind of feeding from you. So that's the whole idea behind our culture. Giving, taking care of it, sustainability, inbuilt sustainability.
And just leading on from that, if we all hopefully one day have the opportunity to visit you in India, or our students may take up some employment in India, what would be your closing piece of advice to most effectively work alongside Indian colleagues? Are there any taboos, for example, of not do's within Indian culture, or any aspects of British culture that can appear odd?
Not at all. That is why I took this shawl purposely. It's not cold enough here. See, the entire world, entire India, everything is no thread, no religion, no point of view can say that I am the best, because any one thread here says that I am the best and I'm contributing to this whole shawl is actually a big lie. Then this whole shawl will stop being a shawl. It will become some mess. So, and we Indians, there is another Sanskrit verse which says Atithi Devo Bhava, which means the guest is God. So, and God comes to your house in terms of a guest. So we and anybody, that is, I've found such beautiful friends in you, all of you, from you to Simon to Martin to all of you. We are very welcoming set of people and very inclusive set of people. No one single mindset, no one single thought, no one way of working is acceptable, best, or anything. Remember, we are one part of a very, very big whole. So there's no taboo. Everybody do your own thing. As long as, and we are very nice, hospital, happy, friendly set of people. You would love being here. We are land of color. We have so many colors. We are land of festivals. We are land of all kinds of things. So it's going to be very welcoming land.
Yes, this is what we can't relay yet through our virtual space, is sharing of food together. And I think that's one of the main attractions for visiting India, and something that our Indian students in the UK have commented on in terms of British foods not not quite matching up to the array of offers within India. So that's what I would look forward to.
So very rich culture. Just enjoy yourself. Don't take yourself so seriously. Remember, you're here for a very brief period in an eternity. Don't take yourself so seriously. Just enjoy. Just live your life and go back to that bigger whole that we're talking about.
Fantastic. And take all of that positivity and enjoyment and channel it into that assignment writing for our students.
Absolutely.
Yes. Enjoy the assessment process.
Yes.
Wonderful. Shall we bring this to a close?
Yes. Okay, so I'll have the last word. So thank you so much, Dr. Karen, for giving me this opportunity for, meeting your students, meeting yourself, sharing just that whatever my thoughts were on this particular topic. And I look forward to a lot of more associations. This is great for both sides of our students. They learn new things, and God willing, we'll meet soon.
Absolutely.
Without all this laptop.
Yes, please, everybody, feel welcome on LinkedIn to connect to myself, to connect to Dr. Anupama. Let's create an ongoing community of discussion here. We are very, very grateful for all of the insights that you've given us today. We will take this forward with us, I'm sure, into our teaching and learning. So thank you most humbly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will be sharing the PDF of my lecture, minus the videos, along with my email address and all my coordinates with you, Dr. Karen, and you can just spread it to the students. If I can be of any help anytime, I'll be more than happy.
Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Speak soon. Bye. Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.